Hello, this is Jolinda Osborne. This lesson is a review of the plosive sounds. The plosive sounds, as you'll recall, are the sounds p, b, t, d, k, and g. So there are 6 plosive sounds. And in this lesson, I'm going to give you some practice sentences so that you'll be able to speak in a natural way using these various sounds. Let's begin. Here are some practice sentences for the sounds p and b. Now again, remember that to make these sounds, you must close your lips and then build up a little air pressure p, and let that air go in a little explosion, which is why we call them plosives. First sentence. I'll read these and I'll say them in a natural speed, but speaking clearly. And I'll give you time to say them after me. I'd suggest that you tape yourself, record yourself in whichever way you can, and play them back. Compare the sounds that you're making against the ones I'm making. All right, let's begin. I prefer a big breakfast before beginning my project. Second one. The personnel department produced a brochure on benefits. Let me pause right here. Make sure that you're closing your mouth to say the p, and make sure that you're giving voice, that's vibration here in your throat, to make the b sound. Let's go on to these next two. Please input the numbers into the database on my computer. He planned a trip to Brussels, Belgium. Okay? So those are 4 sentences, again, to help you with that sound, with the sounds p and b. Let's try the next slide. These are practice sentences for the sounds t and d. Again, as you'll recall, you must touch the tip of your tongue to the place what we call the upper gum ridge, here, behind your teeth. But don't touch your teeth, just that place behind the teeth to make these sounds. For t, it's voiceless, t, t, t. And for d, you want to give it some air, give it some voice to make that harder sound. All right, let's try some. Our worldwide customers ordered lots of new products. Next one. The sports industry is dependent upon TV and cable media. Next one. The advertisement for temporary help produced results. Let me pause right here. Results. There's that t and s sound combination that's tricky. Okay? And the last one. The metal rusted, so it had to be replaced. All right, it's moving on. Now, if you'll recall in the lesson on t and d, I talked about a rule for the pronunciation of that last ed spelling. All right, here's a little test on that, a little practice test. So these words on the left I've given you all have different sounds for ed. Try that first one and then I'll add to it. First word, it should be pushed. T, because sh goes with t, pushed. Next one should be learned. Next one, picked. There's another t. Next one, listed. Now there you have the letter T followed by ed, so it's listed. Next one, flowed. Remember, any sound that ends in a vowel sound, ode, is voiced, so it's flowed. Next one, added. Next one, emailed. You go from voice to voiced. Last one, stopped. P to t. That's just a little review. Make sure and note that as you are speaking. Again, as I said before, these are important sounds to get right. You want your ed endings to be correct. Moving on. Here are some practice sentences for the sounds k and g. Carlo created the graphics for our new logo. Next one. I'll say it and you say it after me. We're all looking for the goose that lays the exotic golden eggs. Next. We expect exact figures on the goods that come from the factory. Next one. Kim caused chaos when he mixed chemicals in the school lab. And the last one. Kids are welcome at the company picnic. As you note, I've focused on the ka and ga, but all the sounds come into play, and we certainly have plenty of tus and does and other sounds that we've studied. Moving on to phrasing and idioms, particularly focused on ka and da, ta, and da. Okay, those four sounds. We did some phrasing earlier on the first two sounds. Okay, say these after me. Deleted data. Little by little. Waste not, want not. The train station. Daily dose of medicine. The middle ground. Settle down. Trick or treat. That, by the way, is a phrase that American children say on Halloween when they're going from house to house asking for candy. The next row on the right side. Coffee with cream. Income tax. An escape clause. A competent crew. The gift of gab. A clove of garlic. Olympic gold. Grand Canyon. Turning to the next slide, I have some tongue twisters for you. Now, tongue twisters are difficult combinations here, and they're fun to do. When you really want to practice those final sounds and get them all mixed up, we call them tongue twisters in American English. So let me read these and follow after me. Don't be discouraged if you do get your tongue a little twisted, but they're good for practice and you can try them several times. First one. Bank robbers always buy crab cakes before breaking into buildings. You might say, that doesn't make much sense. Well, that's the point of tongue twisters. They don't necessarily make much sense. Let's move on. Ducks quack, quail wail, larks hark, but my cat barks. Next one. A tarantula accidentally tripped over Todd's toes and let out a grunt. The last one. The angler in Uganda grabbed a gaff and bagged his catch. Tongue twisters don't appear normally in average speech, but they're a great way to practice these plosive sounds. Throughout this series of lessons, you'll find other tongue twisters. This concludes the review of the plosives. Listen carefully when you encounter those sounds. They're everywhere in all kinds of words. And I suggest that you be very careful in making sure that you have a puff of air coming out when you make those sounds. That's your test for the voiceless part, and that there's an explosion of air for the voice sounds. Keep practicing. You might go over this review again, and I think that you'll improve quickly. Thank you.